Hi, I'm Bryan Phillips with Swell Customs, and today we're going to take you on a bit of an art history lesson and show you how to make some pop art Adidas Stan Smith. A recent trend in custom sneakers took off when artist Joshua Videz took a pair of shoes, covered them in thick black lines, and created the cartoon or sketch effect. After this, customizers all over were grabbing any shoe they could and doing the exact same thing. Now, although this was a new and exciting look into the custom world, it's not actually the first time this style has found its place in the art world. Back in the 1960s, during the pop art movement, an artist by the name of Lichtenstein got his name to fame by taking advertisement illustrations and comic book panels and blowing them up over large canvases. He was fascinated by the thick, bold lines and the simple colors that these comic panels had, and even later in his career took still lifes such as bowls of fruit, vases, and lamps and simplified it down to that cartoon look. Eventually, he even took three-dimensional objects such as teacups, teapots, plates, dishes in general, and painted them to look two-dimensional. So today, in order to pay respect to that style and inspiration, I'm going to take these Stan Smiths and give them a 2D pop art theme. And just like with any custom, the first step is the prep stage. The first step of every custom shoe is the most vital step, and that's to prep the leather using Angelus leather preparer and deglazer. This is going to remove any factory coating on there that will not allow the paint to adhere to the leather. Going over the shoe 2 or 3 times with the preparer will be just enough to help the paint dry onto the leather evenly and last for a long time. So we've got the shoe all taped and prepped up, ready to go, ready to paint. And what's great about this shoe is that the side has just a flat layer of leather that you can pretty much paint anything on, and it'll work with the design of the shoe. Now for a Lichtenstein custom shoe, I want to put some of his signature pieces on the side. When Roy would paint, he had these large stencils for the dot pattern and big thick brushes for the black lines. We don't really have access to that for a small scale shoe like this. So to make this custom really simple for people that might not have access to stencils or airbrushes, things like that, we're just going to use 2 really simple things. An Angelus paint marker and a simple palette of yellow, blue, red, black, and white, which you can find in an Angelus Basics Kit. So this custom can be really done with a minimal amount of supplies. Now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to lightly sketch out kind of the general layout of it. I'm not going to go into too much detail because 1, pencil doesn't really work all that well on leather, and 2, I don't want to put too many pencil strokes onto the leather when I'm just going to paint over it anyways. So now we have our drawings down, marked on the shoe. The next thing to do is to fill up these paint markers. Now in order to do that, we have to thin out the paint, so I'm just going to take every single one of these colors and thin them out to get ready for the paint marker. So you're just going to take the paint dropper and just fill it up a little bit at a time. And just keep an eye out for how much you're putting in there. You don't have to fill it up all the way, especially for a job like this where we're probably not going to need a full ton of paint. So I'm just going to fill it up to a little bit more than halfway. So for the cap, there is a rounded tip, and if you flip it on the other side, there's a chisel tip. So for this specific pattern, I'm going to use the rounded tip so that way we can just apply those dots on. So before I start, I just want to test my marker on a piece of leather to make sure the paint's getting out, and it looks pretty good. So using just what I kind of mapped out here, I'm just going to lay down some dots, and when I do the dots, I want to kind of keep them in a straight line and then just kind of like zigzag them on top of each other. The reason for this dot pattern you see throughout his work is that originally in comic and magazine printing, they only had limited colors of inks that they could print with, and so they would use red, blue, and yellow, the primary colors, and just overlay all these dots onto the paper or the page, and just layer them on top of each other so you could get different effects and different colors based on that. So she's got her yellow blonde hair, so I'm going to take the fatter 5mm marker and fill in that area with the yellow. So I'm going to start with a 3mm marker for the black line, just to get the general lines down, and then I'm going to go in with a thicker chisel tip to make the lines more dramatic. We got our lady down. Now we're going to move on to the other side to put our POW symbol. We got the artwork on the outside of the shoe done. Now for the inside of the shoe, I'm going to do something a little different. Roy Lichtenstein also used to take paintbrush strokes and make those look 2D, so I'm going to use those to represent the 3 stripes of an Adidas shoe. So we got the stripes on the inside of the shoes done. The last thing to do is to turn these shoes into 2 dimensions. And we're going to do that by adding the dot patterns and the bold lines around the edges. First I'm going to go in with the red marker on the outside areas, and the same way I did with the girl's face, I'm just going to do it in an alternating pattern. Now the only thing left to do is take the black marker and create the outline all around the shoe. And there we have it, Adidas Stan Smith 2D pop art inspired customs. We took a basics kit, we showed you how to use our markers, and we used it to create thick bold lines, the dot pattern, and we got a little bit of an art history lesson along the way. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bryan Phillips. You can check me out on Instagram at Swell Guy Customs, sometimes on Twitch at Swell Guy Bri. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.